right, today we are trying to make some potato beds. We are planning on planting some potatoes, which we planted some potatoes at our main ranch about a month and a half ago, but we're trying to, I guess, plant some more potatoes. I guess we figured we're not going to be busy enough, that let's plant some potatoes now. As of right now, I have 2 beds done. At our other ranch, we used 2 blades essentially to make the mounds, the beds, but right now we are currently using our mulch layer, and we're just not putting the plastic mulch on. And obviously it still shapes the bed, it's just we're not putting the mulch on, so we get that. One thing we're dealing with right now is this ground needed to be disced. It's a little too hard to be laying beds right now, and it's too clumpy. But right now our disc, or not our disc, our tractor that pulls our disc, the New Holland, is currently broke, and they still haven't fixed it yet. So we're waiting, hopefully they'll fix it today, but we need to get the potatoes in because we already have the seed for it. So we're having to go through these rows right here. I'm gonna go essentially right now with the mulch layer and do a pass, and then I'm gonna have to go over that same bed 2 more times to be able to get it to be like this, because just one pass with the mulch layer, it leaves it still way too clumpy and it's kind of hollow in the middle, and we want it to be a nice full bed. So I have to do a couple passes through the dirt to get it nice how we want it, since we don't have our disc right now. This is also my first time driving the tractor with the mulch layer, so the rows are not the straightest, but I don't expect them to be, since this is literally the first time after all these years of laying plastic and stuff like that. My uncle is always the one that is driving the tractor and laying the plastic. Even him, he's been farming for over 40 years now, and his rows don't even come out straight. So I don't expect my roads to come out straight. We don't have GPSs on our tractors, so it is all just by holding the steering wheel and trying not to move it so we can get the road straight. And we also took off our drip shank. This is where obviously the drip goes through when we're laying the plastic mulch, but we're not putting drip underneath the potatoes. We're gonna run the drip over the top once we plant them. This one we had to have fixed because our other ones were basically going through the dirt and sand so much, they wear out pretty quickly. So our other one was basically completely very thin metal, and it started ripping up the drip. So we had our buddy weld this back on with some thicker metal. Yeah, our other one was really bad, but it happens over the years of going through the dirt so much with the sand. It wears down the metal so quickly. Alright, this is how the first pass looks, and this is why we have to go through it a couple times, because it's still kind of hollow in the middle, and there's obviously some clumps of dirt. So I'm gonna end up going through this row 2 more times to try and get it a little bit smoother. This is our first time ever growing potatoes as well, so we're just trying to figure out as we go essentially, and if we have any questions, we ask one of our farming friends that has grown potatoes for many years, many generations. His family has grown potatoes, so if we have any questions, we'll ask him to help us out. My dad wanted to lift up this back section of our mulch layer, because this is where essentially the plastic rolls through right here, and he didn't want these plastic rolls to be rolling on the hard dirt, because it's gonna end up just messing them up. And we're only planning on laying, I believe, 11 rows for the potatoes. First 2 rows look okay to me. I'm not mad at that, how straight they are. Third one gets a little bit more crooked, and then this last one I did is horrible. This one is, I think you can see it. It is so many curves in this thing. Hoping I'll straighten it out some right now on this second pass. And we're only planning on doing 2 passes now, they said. And then on the 3rd pass, we are going to put the shank back in, or put the shank back on the mulch layer. Leave a groove right in the middle of the row for us to come back and put all the potatoes. All right, I got 6 rows done. We're gonna leave a dead row, and then we're gonna do another 6 rows. So we're gonna end up doing 12 rows right now, and this is my chance to hopefully straighten out the rows because I'm going to be doing a new line, but obviously now it could get, hopefully it gets better, but it could definitely get worse. All right, we just added the shank back in right there in the middle, and then we don't have the mulch layer all the way down, or it's going to end up covering up the bed and packing it down. So we have the shank in there, so it can leave this groove right here in the middle, and that's where we're planning on essentially putting all the potatoes lined up in the groove. And then once we plant all the potatoes, we're going to take the shank back off and drop the mulch layer all the way back down and go a little bit quicker. So then it'll end up covering up all the potatoes and leaving the bed nice and flat like how it was before we added the shank back in. All right, these are the first 6 rows that I did. The first 3 were okay, I would say. These next 3 were the ones that got really crooked. And then I had to do the dead row where we're gonna drive the tractors when we have to harvest. And then the last 6, I would say, are pretty good. They're a little crooked, but not as bad as those first couple ones. All right, just finished up going through with the shank and leaving the groove for the potato. And I'm not sure, we're probably gonna end up planting the potatoes in the next day or 2. I don't think it's gonna be today, but yeah, that is set up. All right, gonna do a little walkthrough of our first planting to show you guys how everything's looking right now. I am right now in all of the peppers, and then my uncle he started putting these stakes in right here and some rope, and he wants to try and stake this little section of peppers to see how they do, and obviously just see how it looks, if it would be worth for us to stake obviously all the other peppers, which it is a lot of money to stake it, a lot of labor. But it gets really windy here in the evening times, and the wind comes in and leans the plants over, and once the plants end up having the peppers on them, the peppers will end up hitting the plastic, and then when they're leaning over, a lot more will end up on the plastic, and the plastic's obviously hot, so it ends up cooking and burning some of the pepper ends that we have to throw. So we're just trying, we've never staked them before. My uncle wants to stake them, and once they start getting a little bit bigger, he's going to start tying them off to the rope right here. The peppers got their flowers open already. There's some right there. But peppers, I believe, are like 90 to 100 days till you get fruit, whereas the melons are anywhere from 70 up to 85 days on the melons and watermelons. All right, so right next to the peppers, we got some watermelons. We got some right here. One right there. Let's see. Another little dude right there. But you can see that the runners are completely covering the furrows now. I got another one right there. Don't want to really walk too much into the field right now because there's a lot of bees flying around, and don't want to make them mad and I get stung by a bee. Never have been stung by a bee, so don't want that to happen right now. This one right here, this vine has 2 watermelons within a couple inches of each other right there. We got another one on this plant. So far the field looked pretty good. See a decent amount of fruit on them. The melon plants do have some bigger fruit than the watermelons right now. I just gotta find one. I know I found some the other day that were, I would say, a baseball size, if not a little bit bigger. See, the plants got a lot of flowers on them right there. Got a little melon right there. Let's see. Oh, there's a okay size one right here. Here's another one. This is a different variety. It's already starting to get kind of netted up, which the netting is obviously right here on the outside. And here's another one. This is one of our cantaloupe varieties right here. One thing we kind of noticed is that there is plants that have got some decent sized fruit already right now on the melons, but not a lot of the plants have that. So we're thinking that the rain that we had a few weeks ago, obviously probably about a month ago now, knocked off some of the flowers that would have been our earliest fruit, like those size right there. So the ones that we do have, the big melons, were like the ones that survived the rain essentially. So we do have still a lot of fruit on the plants, but essentially the rain knocked off any of the early melons, because there's still a decent amount of this size fruit right here. Let's see it. That size fruit. So there is plenty of different stages of fruit on the plant. It's just that the earliest flowers that bloomed were the ones that got knocked off from the heavy rain. It basically, the plant aborted the flowers. So we don't have a lot of early fruit, but we still are gonna have some probably the first week of June like we thought, which we don't want all of the melon plants to have all big size fruit right now. We want our plants to have like different stages. Some that have obviously like the baseball size right now, and then some that are smaller, like maybe $half size. And we just want different size fruit, because obviously if we have the plants have all big fruit right now, a lot of it's gonna be ripe at the same time, and we don't want a lot of it at once. We want it to come off slowly every couple days, or every day when we're harvesting, that we're getting an okay amount. We're not just getting 5 pallets of one variety at once. We'd rather get like 1 pallet a day every day of the week versus 5 in one day and then only get like 1 the next day, because it threw everything off the plant at once. You have different stages like this, which, boom, there's a melon right there. You got this side of the plant, it has a small little melon right there on the end of that flower. And then look right over here, we already have a melon that big, and then there's some other ones right there. Usually the plants, we harvest them at about 3 weeks for sure, even up to 4 weeks. They last 4 weeks, but once we start getting into our second planting, usually we'll leave our first planting and then move to our second planting and just start getting the fresher fruit essentially, because when you're harvesting off a new planting, like a new block, the fruit has a little bit of a stronger flavor versus when you are getting towards the end of the plant's life. The flavor and texture changes up a little bit. So depending on how much fruit obviously we have in the field. This is the end of our first planting of melons, and then this is where our first planting of watermelons are. We are currently taking apart the little disc and going to start replacing the bearings. Actually, that's how we laid it out to make sure we don't mess up when we put it back together. But we need to take out all of the bearings because they're all messed up and obviously they don't work. Well, this is what a good bearing is. Obviously it can still move. This is where the shaft goes from the disc, and then this one completely got heated up and it basically seized all the way up, but obviously that was in the middle. This one, the outside, and all the ball bearings were obviously all around inside that, but obviously it got really hot and it locked up and it basically melted the other side of the bearing to the plate right here. So yeah, this is completely seized up around. So we gotta go buy some more bearings to put them in. Now for this, I need to bend this piece of metal back away from the nut to be able to loosen the nut, because that's basically the lock to not allow the nut to come undone. So now I gotta try and hit that metal back to be able to completely disassemble the bearing from the shaft and everything. Yep, this is not gonna be very quick. I've been hitting right here. It looks a little bit straighter than this side, where it's a little bit bent down. But yeah, I need both this side and this side to be off the nut to be able to get the ratchet in between to loosen this. The disc should be able to move fairly easy. But you can see it's pretty tough, and it's making like a grinding sound over here. So that's what happens when the bearings go bad.
Okay, let's see what is. Got it? Got it? Yeah.
Alright, got the back disc all taken apart. My uncle's gonna go buy bearings right now. Hopefully they have them. But this is obviously how a good bearing will spin. And this one is the one that is all locked up, that I cannot move it really. Yep, I can't move it at all. Alright, we got the disc fully taken apart and got the bearings, and we're going to replace all the bearings. We got to put 8 new bearings on.
I am here. I took my last final for the year, for the school year that is, and I'm right here with them. They are working on the disc. They are 3/4 of the way done. They got one section right there. There's one section right here. This is the 3rd section, and then the 4th section would be right there. So going well, or hopefully going well. I just got here, so it seems like it was going well, but what I heard is that they were having some technical difficulties on taking it apart, putting it back together, taking it apart. But last section to go, then we'll be done with this for the day.
All right, finally finished up changing all the bearings in the disc. Took I don't know, like 3-4 hours. Now we're gonna go to our other ranch where my dad is disking, because our New Holland tractor got fixed, so he's been disking, because we're gonna start laying plastic tomorrow morning. So we had a long day today, we're gonna have a long day tomorrow. Got here at 6 in the morning. It's 6 p.m. right now. All right, it is currently the next day. It's 4 in the morning. We're getting the potatoes ready to go start planting them right now. Start filling up the buckets with potatoes before the workers get here. But we have a total of 3 different varieties. Each bin we got is a different variety, so we have a total of 3 varieties. And my dad and uncle are starting to lay the plastic in this field for our next planting. All right, I got 6 buckets filled up right now. We're gonna get ready to start planting them. I was not here when we planted the potatoes at our other ranch, but I believe we're just getting the potato and essentially just setting them in there, and we're gonna do it throughout the row, and then I'm gonna come back in with the mulch layer without the shank and go over the bed again to cover up the row in the middle where all the potatoes are at. just finished putting all the potatoes in. It took about an hour 15 minutes, and they're in right here. We have 3 varieties total, 5 rows of Yukon potatoes. We did 4 rows of a orange variety of potato, and then 3 more rows of a purple potato. Put in about 4,800 potatoes, I would say, right now in about an hour. All right, so that is the potato right there. Another one there, there, and there. We're gonna go take the rest of the potatoes we got left back to our other ranch and go get some lay flats to start hooking up the irrigation that my dad and uncle are laying the rows for right now. So my brother and I are gonna go start taking care of all the irrigation and hopefully get that set up by the time they're done with all the rows. All right, they got a total of 42 rows done right here. We can probably fit a couple more rows on this side, but they stopped from laying more rows because the beehives over there are starting to become more active. Usually when it gets warmer out, the bees start coming out a lot more to go start working. So they try and avoid obviously being near the bees when they start coming out, because then they'll start getting aggressive when you're in the area of them. So they left that alone. They jumped to the other side over there and they're laying more plastic. That whole section over there is going to be full. One thing I noticed right now when I was flying the drone to get some drone clips is that my uncle, when he started the first row down here, he started driving more to the right. So that side has not that much of a space. There's maybe like 30-40 feet on that end that we could put in rows, and this side has probably 70 or 80 feet. So now this section of the field, this whole section right here is all going at an angle this way, whereas these ones are all pretty parallel to the field itself. Brother is unrolling the lay flat for this section. These are the rows that we're going to start hooking up, the ones they just finished. Someone commented that they would like to see our well set up, which each of our ranches have a different setup. So right here we turn it on with the switch, and then the water runs through these lines into our filters, which are full of gravel and sand, and then the water works its way into this line, drops down, and then it shoots out right here, and then we shoot the irrigation line all the way out to the end. It has 4-inch schedule 120 irrigation lines, and obviously this is like one of our risers, so it shoots across from here right into here, and then it comes up. The pipe is about 5 or 6 feet deep, and obviously from here all the way out to there we have, it's like 800 feet of irrigation line underneath, and essentially in this section of the road, and it goes straight back, and then it shoots over when we have our risers. I believe this well pulls out about over 100 gallons per minute. So from the well all the way down here, the pipe is under the ground, and then it shoots from right here, shoots directly across to our manifold right here. And we made this, obviously we put all these pieces together to make this connection to connect our lay flats to it. And then we have these right here to be able to inject our fertilizer directly into, for say, this side of the row, or we can put it on this side and only fertilize this side of the field. We got the lay flat all stretched out, and then we put a couple stakes in, and then this clamp with some wood to anchor it down, because if we don't anchor it down, and once we fill up the lay flat with water, it'll end up making curves in it, and we don't want that to happen. So we pull it straight, nice and tight, and then add the anchor on. Now it is time to start punching the lay flat with our homemade gun. Obviously we're gonna start punching the lay flat on the one side. Luckily on this field we only have to punch the lay flat on that side, whereas our other fields they're 700-800 feet long, so we have the lay flat in the middle of our row. So essentially we had to punch it on this side to run water to this side, and then we would have to punch it on the opposite side to run it the other way. But since these rows are shorter, these are only 400 feet, we're deciding obviously just to do it like this. We don't need to have the middle of the row have the lay flat, we could just have it right here on the end. Finished setting up all the irrigation at our other ranch. We're at our second ranch now. checking on all of the melons we planted this last week, checking to see if anything needs to be irrigated right now. But these are the ones that we planted, and they're already flowering. Been in the ground for I think maybe 7 days, 7 to 10 days, some of these plants. This is part of the 60,000 plants that we put in last week. This is the third planting of watermelons. They do not have flowers quite yet. And then we had to put dirt on the beds of plastic right here because it's been really windy, that there's been air bubbles in the plastic. You can kind of see like an air bubble right there. And the plants end up going underneath the plastic, and then with this heat that we've been having, it gets really hot underneath it, and it ends up just cooking the plant, and it ends up just killing them completely. So that's why we put dirt all on the tops of the plastic. This section all right here is our second planting. We got the second planting of melons, and then right where my brother's at is where the second planting of watermelons start. We're going to be coming in here soon to start hand weeding these second planting, because look, there's some bigger weeds right here, and then I see more right there. But there's a tomato plant that is growing in next to the watermelon, or the melon actually, but the tomato was obviously must have been inside of the same tray as the melon. Got the second planting of watermelons right here. Here's our other well at the second ranch. We turn it on with this right here, turn it that way, it turns on. It has filters as well, which are filled with gravel and sand, and obviously it goes the same way. We have the basically the plastic pipe running from here, shooting all the way out to the field, and then we shot it all the way that way.